Hello everyone, I hope you're taking it easy and your day has been great thus far. For this video we'll be going through an unboxing and review of Powerlinx Hotshot and Jolt. Both were out of the Transformers Armada universe side of things, and this particular version of Hotshot is still out of the Legacy Evolution figure line and released this year being 2022. So wrapping up, at least what I have physically on me, the Armada little sub-theme that I've been running with before I move on to some other content. So I thought I'd try and get Hotshot out of the way so I can move on to other things. I do have Optimus ready to pick up, so time will tell when I do him. So front of the box for Powerlinx Hotshot and Jolt. Who would have thought? A Minicon combination. Definitely very cool. So Hotshot in this instance, compared to his previous release, is now sporting his interesting little power-up colours, which isn't too dissimilar, but it is what it is. Now the interesting thing that I found about the cover art is Thrust. I do feel that there was an announcement for an Armada Thrust, but I will admit it has been some time since I looked. But yeah, who knows? Could this be a sign of things to come? In which case, that'd be very cool if we get more figures out of the Armada line. Anyway, that was the front of the packaging. In terms of the back, so we have Hotshot there, and as I mentioned, he's basically a recolor of his previous iteration. We have Jolt, who will take 8 steps to transform between his robot mode and his alt mode. We have a number of included effects. We know about the 21 steps of transformation for Armada, for Hotshot. He will have some additional weapons that he didn't have before in his previous release. And yeah, we actually have a few more gimmicks included thanks to Jolt, including the actual power linking, at least for the vehicle mode. Remains to be seen if we will be able to power link Jolt with Hotshot in his robot mode. I'm going to assume yes, and no, that is not how he was power linked. He basically power linked at the back of Hotshot, and sometimes acted as a bit of a flying backpack. So definitely some very interesting inclusions. Definitely a nice little redeco of Hotshot. He was definitely a very nice figure to have a play around with previously, so expecting similar out of this. Anyway, enough about the box, time to crack it open, have a better look at Hotshot, Jolt, and all the new inclusions. I'll try not to spend too much time on Hotshot because he is fundamentally just a repaint. And with everything out of the packaging, what do we have? So we have Hotshot, 3 sets of handheld weapons, Jolt, 2 of each type of effect part. So basically they can all combine to make a single effect piece, and the manual. So there's a little bit to go through, with Hotshot probably being the one with the least amount. So, manual. Suffice to say, there's a fair bit happening in the manual these days. So we do have obviously a few steps about using the new weapons and the accessories, how to store them on Hotshot's back. We also have a few steps regarding his original weapon set, using some of the accessories on that with his Powerlink gimmick, and he can even hold Jolt as a weird weapon of some sort. We also have the steps at the very bottom to transform Jolt into his robot mode. Now I did have a quick look, and I don't think Jolt will actually be able to power link with Hotshot in the animated style, mainly because of spacing. which is unfortunate, because when you switch over to the other side of the manual, and I apologize, it's a bit chaotic, obviously transformation of Hotshot into his vehicle mode, transforming Jolt basically into his little somewhat converted state for the vehicle mode as well, on top of attaching some of these weapons, etc. to Hotshot. So there's a good amount of playability to be had for this. So that was the manual. Hotshot, you can actually go over there. So how are we going to do this? Jolt, I'm actually going to put you over there because you're not technically an accessory. So going through all the accessories, so first handheld weapon, it's pretty much the same that we saw with the original Hotshot, except this time it's just all in black. Well, it's probably yellow plastic painted in black. We do have two of these new handheld weapons which look particularly beefy. So that's one of them. I don't know if it's supposed to be a shotgun type of weapon. And then the second one. But yes, very large rifles. I'm not sure why they've been added in. I don't think Hotshot really needed them, but it's also been a while since I've last watched Armada. For all I know, they were sporting these in the tail end of the series. Now, as for the effect parts, can So I've just combined three of them into the ultimate effect part, which does look very clunky. I have no idea how it will go weight-wise. Holding them already does seem to be a bit weighty. So that would be, I guess, a version of them together. Otherwise, it's a single long piece here, a middle body piece, I dare say, and a bottom explosion effect piece. Very cool that we get them, but they're definitely very weighty. But in theory, you should be able to have different combinations of these subject to how you put everything in. So definitely very cool that we get them. So that is the accessories. I guess for sake of discussion, yeah, these are very tight to get in. Okay, so that's Hotshot armed with his two new weapons. Does he really need them? I don't know. But that's that. We know that he has this at the back of his... Ooh. If I flip that around properly. So there's that. That is very cool though. That does give it a lot more presence. But yes, it's very much an armored Hotshot, which is interesting. Kind of reminds me of what you would expect in some of the G2 Transformer comics that we got way back in the day, with some of the extra weapons they were all sporting. That's definitely not too bad. I won't worry about the original weapon. In saying that, I will have a link back to the original unboxing and review of Hotshot. So that's basically just some of the accessories, well, his new accessories and the effect parts in use. I won't cover attaching them into his back bit, but when I do the short, hopefully I'll do it there. Okay, so that was a very quick look at Hotshot with his new accessories. Put Hotshot back into his normal look. Might look at these later on. Otherwise, definitely keep an eye out for the short. Now, how are we going to do this? Actually, I wish I had Jolt transformed because that would have been better. I guess we'll have a quick look at you first, Jolt. So Jolt will pretty much come packaged in his vehicle mode, and I will admit it is pretty accurate to his alt mode per Armada. So Jolt from the front, side, the back, the other side, top and the bottom. He is pretty much just in a single orangey type of color, some painted black. He does have a little bit of grey here for what I suspect is his shoulders. Articulation wise, his rotor blades all spin very nicely actually. That is very smooth. I'll do what I've done and just thrown him to the table. From an alt mode perspective, he does look very, very cool. Now, it's 8 steps of transformation, and I really don't want to spend too much time on the video trying to do it, so I might want to do Hotshot back into his alt mode. I might switch things around. So that is Jolt in his alt mode. Definitely not looking too bad. And because it was covered as a quote-unquote gimmick, if I tab this out from there, wow, everything's not doing very well with that particular hand. There we go. Hotshot holding Jolt. I don't understand it myself, but there you go. It is unfortunate, just looking at how Jolt has been designed, because if you look at the back of Hotshot, it would be nice to have Jolt attached somewhere around here, but it's not necessarily feasible, especially where that connector point is. I mean, the best thing you could possibly do is kinda his forearm. You could kinda do it on his side, but obviously it just doesn't seem to have the same effect. Surprisingly enough, there could be another connector on the weapon itself. There's this port here, which is unfortunate because it's somewhat recessed in, but I guess you could piggyback off this one. It just seems weird now because, you know, that is the actual weapon that you've attached Jolt to. So, anyway, that is Jolt. We'll have another look at Jolt later on when we flip modes around. Okay, quick look at Hotshot in his super mode-ish type colors. So now he's sporting a little less yellow, sporting a lot more red, a lot more black, going for a more bronze color. And he is also sporting some flame motifs, which I guess is a bit of a throwback to Hot Rod, potentially. From the front, the side, the back, the other side, just a close-up of some of the revised detailing for Hotshot. I will not go over articulation. The toy is the same as the original release. I'll have a link to that if you're curious about how articulated he was as a figure. I'm just going to leave it pretty much as he's basically a repaint. I've had a quick look at his revised colors. They definitely don't look too bad. I mean, the detailing on that is very nice, but that's going to be more evident in his alt mode. But in terms of his robot mode, you know, the colors themselves still work very well, generally. So that is very cool, but otherwise I'm not going to spend too much time, if any, going through some of his playability, since it's a rinse and repeat. So with Hotshot pretty much done, I will transform him to alt mode. I will transform Jolt into robot mode and probably attach some of those accessories onto Hotshot, do the final transformation of Jolt into his mode for Hotshot's alt mode, and then have some quick final thoughts. Okay, and with everything transformed, so Hotshot. So I have attached his extra accessories on. I won't spend too much time about Hotshot in his alt mode. Once again, go look at the original video. So Hotshot from somewhat of an angled front, the side, the back, the other side, from the top, from the bottom. The redeco actually does look quite nice, and even the little flame effects do look very cool. It is very nice that they also rechanged that engine block into a black. It doesn't seem to conflict as much, which is good. But overall, it's actually not too bad, now sporting a bit of a red deco for his alt mode. The yellow and his spoiler bits looks a little bit weird, but that's okay. I'm still 50-50 about the whole attaching weapons onto the side of them. It looks okay, but I guess the design of the weapons does look, compared to this, which is completely subtle, having these two weapons here do look a little bit weird, but oh well. So that's Hotshot in his alt mode. As for Jolt in his robot mode, so here we have Jolt from the front, the side, the back, the other side, and a bit of a close-up on some of his detailing, his face and his main torso. Transformation for Jolt definitely wasn't too bad. If it was 8 steps, it didn't really feel it. So yeah, definitely don't expect too much hassles there. I think the one thing that was really cool were just these little bits down here for his feet to give him some of that extra foot support. I think that is actually very cool, as opposed to just leaving it hollow. So very nice that they thought about that. Since Jolt is relatively new to this release, there's going to be no head articulation. The arm can pretty much do a full 360. Just be mindful of the helicopter blades there. This is very cool, can do that. Arm can go pretty much all the way out to the side as well, thanks to this little ball socket. It will be capable of a typical shoulder bend and can go straight out. So some nice little articulation there with the arms. Definitely not too bad for a Minicon. There isn't going to be much in the way of a waist rotation, but he will be capable of doing a full splits. Leg can go all the way to the front. Leg can go all the way to the back. Actually, almost better than the average Deluxe figure. And obviously we know it can go to the side. As for the knee bend, he can do a pretty decent knee bend. Granted, this does start falling into his transformation process, where this pretty much just folds into the front of his alt mode. So very nice that he can actually do that. Does he have a reverse knee kick? A little bit. He can actually flip his leg around, which is very cool. And that's pretty much the limit of the articulation within his legs. So overall, for a Minicon, he's actually probably sporting above average articulation. Granted, there's no movement in the head, but it's a minor thing. And his rotators, or whatever they're called, still function quite happily in his robot mode. So Jolt, very cool in his robot mode there. Now, the next thing to do will be to retransform Jolt back into his alt mode and basically attach him to Hotshot, who is sporting a very dead obvious Minicon port. So Jolt will attach to that, and I'm pretty sure it happened a few times in Armada. As I said, it has been a while since I last watched, so we can have a quick look at that, and then I'll just have some final thoughts. Actually, before I forget, Jolt, can you actually stand on your own 2 feet relatively? Yeah, you can. Just probably spend a little bit more time posing you, of course. Okay, with Jolt now attached to Hotshot in his vehicle mode, in his little Powerlinx mode, definitely not too bad. It's definitely been a case of the thought that counts, but it does look a little bit weird. So I guess that's from the front view, from the side, and I think that's where it starts to become a little bit weird. From the back, it's definitely not too bad. That's the other side, and I guess a bit of a semi-close-up. So I guess the detracting part of this, unfortunately, is just because of how part of Jolt has to do this bend over into a bit of a inverted L shape, just to accommodate that bend there. This bit there obviously doesn't look too bad, but yeah, it's unfortunate that this couldn't cover up a little bit more, but at the end of the day, it's a gimmick that the original one didn't have. It's unfortunate that we had to get the gimmick this way, but it is still very cool that it's there. So it's definitely a very nice callback to the original Powerlinx Minicon gimmick back in the original toy line. So that's pretty much the quick part of that being looked at. So let's bring everything back into general view. So those are the effect parts, the weapons, which I did take off just to see what Hotshot would look like with just Jolt attached. And there is the manual. So final thoughts about Powerlinx Hotshot. From a robot mode perspective, it's purely a redeco, so anything that was good and bad of the original Hotshot release will carry over into this particular version. The only real difference, as I said, is the fact that it's a redeco, and the colours actually do look quite nice. I think the only thing that looked a little bit odd was just the yellow for the shoulders, but otherwise articulation is going to be the same, and things like that. So there's nothing really much to say about the robot mode. Jolt as a robot mode is definitely really cool. Very surprised at the amount of articulation, which I think is a huge step up from the original Minicons. So very nice that they've actually done that, and I'm hoping it will be a sign of more of the Armada releases getting them. Which is also unfortunate because he definitely was a significant price increase from his basic deluxe release. So that's the robot modes. The two accessories, nice that they were added in. Little fence city about the value. Getting the blast effects was actually, once again, it was nice additional value. Some of them do look really, really nice. The others, they're not terrible. I mean, it's nice to have them, but I don't think it's a be all end all of the figure. So from a robot mode perspective, it definitely wasn't terrible. A lot of these extra accessories and gimmicks are nice to have. I think Jolt was definitely one of the better winners in that department. In terms of the transformation, Hotshot's transformation is completely untouched from his original release. As for Jolt, definitely not too bad for an 8-step transformation. It's very seamless, it's very intuitive. I think I gave up on trying to follow through the manual and went, you know what, I'm just going to try and do this logically, and it's fine. It actually works quite well. Even his transformation for this component in the Powerlinx vehicle mode isn't too bad. It's like an extra step that's not even utilized within his main alt to robot mode, so it's very interesting what they've cobbled together into that little Minicon figure to do what it can do. So definitely Jolt, I think, is probably the biggest winner of the release so far, but I'll mention that again in a moment. Ultimate side of things, Hotshot, the red does look very nice. So basically vehicle mode, complete redeco through and through. I do like the red, but when the short comes along, or maybe a short after, I'll definitely try and do the two Hotshots next to each other just to do a bit of a visual comparison. But otherwise, his alt mode is the same. Jolt has a very nice alt mode. I think it's very cool. It's definitely a nice modernized take on his alt mode from Armada, and it does look really cool. I do quite like it. It's nice that some of those extra accessories can attach to Hotshot, but I'm not sure if I would do it too often. His main original one, it's perfect and seamless. I'm glad it's there. Even funnily enough, I don't even think he actually always had an engine block, but anyway. So alt mode, definitely not too bad. Final thoughts, review wise, would I recommend Powerlinx Hotshot? If you're a Puritan collector, you will probably want to get one. In saying that, I will say good luck at trying to find one. Only one local retailer had Hotshot available, And I did mention earlier the price wasn't completely terrible, but it's definitely a few leagues away from the original Deluxe figure. So you are paying a premium for the effect parts, the 2 extra weapons, the redecos, and Jolt. So definitely keep that in mind, but I think the Puritan collectors will definitely want a copy of it. The fans of Armada and Hotshot will probably want one, and to be honest, I'm actually quite glad that I have one. The effects are definitely quite nice, and I think the shorts will definitely highlight some of those extra benefits of some of these new accessories and gimmicks. I think the only thing that I'm a bit disappointed about is the fact that Jolt cannot combine with Hotshot per the animation. I think that would have been the perfect icing on the cake and probably would have actually warranted its price. Unfortunate, but I think you would have needed a lot of forward planning for that. But at the same time, at least we still had his alt mode, Powerlinx mode, which obviously is right there. So yeah, I would definitely say for the Puritans, the Hotshot fans, the Armada fans, I think it's a nice addition on top of the original Hotshot Deluxe figure. If you're very tight on money and the extra gimmicks are neither here or there, I would probably say just stick with your base Deluxe release just to save some money, because it is still a really good figure at that price point. This one is obviously an elevated price point. But if pricing isn't too bad, this one's definitely not too bad to get purely for the extra items you are getting. And as I said, hopefully this will be a sign of things like Starscream, Megatron, Optimus, etc. Optimus will be a bit painful because he was a commander class. Getting re-releases in their redecos, and hopefully a Minicon partner. I think Starscream is probably the one that I would really love to see that done. One, I think he'll look really good in his blue colors, and two, it would be nice for his Minicon to come along with it. And given where the Minicon attached, hopefully it will work in either mode. So there you go. Starscream could actually work really well as this as a Powerlinx edition. I'm going to leave the video there. I think I've covered everything. Because it is a redeco of Hotshot, definitely go check out the original Hotshot video if you want to see more things like about articulation and things like that, because that video will cover it a lot better. Thank you very much for watching this unboxing and review of Powerlinx Hotshot and his Minicon partner Jolt. Feel free to leave a like, a comment, subscribe if you enjoyed the content. All of this does help support the channel, and I do greatly appreciate it. Extra content can also be found on my Instagram account. The link is in the description below. It's also the same handle as the channel. Now, I have mentioned it a few times. There will be a supplementary / complimentary short of Powerlinx Hotshot to also go with this video, just to look at a few more different angles and things that I haven't done here. With that being said, stay safe, take care, and I will catch you all in a future video, whether it's more Transformers content or something else on the channel. See ya.